Assalamu alaikum. Any questions, please? Dr. Mujibul Haq Sahib?
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
At Huzur's instigation, tomorrow, Khuddam and possibly some Ansar
Yes, inshallah.
will be doing some 26-mile walk towards Islamabad,
Yes.
inshallah. Could you kindly tell us some background of this, sir? People are not very clear about it.
I mean, people do take such excursions, don't they? They make such excursions normally, and Khuddam should also participate in these healthy activities. And there doesn't have to be any other explanation than this. You know, they go for marathon races and things, and Ahmadis should be tougher than the ordinary people living in the same country. In Pakistan, for instance, Jamia Ahmadiyya expects her students, after they have submitted their PhD, to go through some strenuous exercises. Before that, unless they have done it, they will not be given any degree. And the walk is from Rabba to Sargodha and back. And I think then the race, the running or jogging is between Rabba and Sargodha. Pardon? नहीं, jog करना, दौड़ के जाना. 26 miles, exactly. That is jogging. But as far as the walk is concerned, it's much longer. From Rabwa to Peshawar, or if you 200, 300 miles, you know, in some direction, with the condition that they cannot carry money, they cannot beg anything, beg anyone for food or anything. But if somebody offers them food, they can expect it. They can go and sleep in the mosques if they please, but they shouldn't even beg for some, lodging place, something. So this they do, and with the grace of Allah, they return successfully whole and alive. Sometimes they have to undergo great hardships. Sometimes they have told me for 24 hours nobody offered them anything, and they had to shift without anything, even just for themselves. So this is a tradition of Jamaat. In Qadian, Jamaat Ahmadiyya participated in all exercises, games and healthy pursuits outstandingly. I mean, there is no comparison between the Jamaat's activities and the activities around or in the country as well. For instance, in most of the games, not most but in some games, the Qadian was outstanding despite its very small population. I mean, what was Qadian as compared to Lahore or even Amritsar? There is no comparison in population and resources. But the Qadian football teams used to defeat Khalsa College Lahore and also colleges of Khalsa College Amritsar and some colleges of Lahore. And the Rabwa hockey team used to defeat the entire Punjab team. Qadian the hockey team, not Rabwa, yes. And in swimming too, we produced some champions. In cycling, we produced Indian champion, Asian champion. And as far as shooting and games are concerned, I mean bird games, almost every adult person of Qadian was a sort of shikari. If he didn't own a gun, he would have a huler, a catapult, or he would go for fishing. So because Qadian discouraged unhealthy pursuits, luxurious pursuits, so there had to be a natural vent. And this was it. Because there was no cinema, no theatre, nothing, no nightclub and things. So man must live with some pleasure. So if you obstruct one passage and other passage is opened, which is healthier with the grace of Allah. So this is why it was directed. Now here in England, it is even more necessary, because the players offered to the Ahmadiyya youth here are out of proportion much more and more hazardous and dangerous than the small players which could be available to Qadiani population. So this is why I started it. I wanted Khuddam to participate in ordinary healthy pursuits, in games, in shooting, in karate, these things. So they would keep them fit, they will be better equipped to serve the cause of Ahmadiyyat, and also it's their right to have some source of pleasure, and this provides a very good pleasure.
There was a question about this.
Go first to the microphone, please. First go to the microphone, first ask for permission for this, go to the microphone and then address me, right? Yes, please, yes.
There was a talk about this exercise, and some people criticized it. But I told them that in every army there is an endurance test, and that is normally 30 miles walk, and that is a precondition before the passing out parade. So you are the God's army, and if you take up this exercise of 26 miles walk, certainly you will be befitting yourself and equipping yourself with the necessary vigor required for you.
Right.
So they were satisfied.
But I think the criticism might be very small, because
Very small.
the response was very generous and forthcoming. I didn't expect that more than 100 people, 100 youth from England would participate in this. I think there are more than 100 now they are participating. 124.
Certainly,
And
it's very
Ansar and over and above this, some Ansar have insisted and participated, and also some Atfal. The children have insisted that we must also participate. So the response here is very encouraging.
And the trend is so useful for the future of Ahmadiyyas in that particular area, where they have to establish their name, fame and everything.
Yes, please. And you are also a young Ansar, aren't you? How old are you?
76 and a half.
No, 76. You should take draw lesson from him. He was once our missionary in Hungary, and I sent him on a mission to Hungary this time, and he went and fished out the old contacts, and he was surprised to find those people who were younger than him when he was there, looking much older than he was now. So encouraged them and told them, look, be brave and feel young about it. Why have you grown old? Look at me, I'm doing the work very well. So with the grace of Allah, he performed his mission wonderfully, beautifully, and traced back some very old contexts which will inshallah be very useful to our preaching in Hungary now. Also in Poland he did very well. Nobody could imagine that by looking at him that he's 78. Cheema Sahab, how old are you?
I'm 69 now.
See? And you look older than he is. Don't you? Only in one thing you are younger. You still intend to marry. There was one, in old days, Ahmadis were very tough, in fact. And because of these exercises, their interest in games and things, and shikar, they used to walk miles and miles without tiring. And because of that training, I did once 34 miles here in London while I was here. And during our visits to to the hill stations, used to walk 20 miles, 22 miles ordinarily. I mean, that was not any tough or tiring job at all. So this was the general background of people born in Qadian and brought up in that atmosphere. An old Ahmadi met me in Kundri, in Nasrabad state. He is about 115 years old or more. This, after assessing his age from various directions and having various witnesses, this was the minimum age established for him, although he himself claims he is about 125 years old. And he is the grandfather of an old man who is about 70 years old. You see? And he can walk from Nasrabad to Kundri, that is 6 miles, and back at this age, and he walks straight. See? So, I don't know why we have lowered our standards of fitness. Here, in England, although the people are supposed to be luxurious and easy in ways of life, yet they are quite advanced in every direction. In games and toughness, they have set very, very high records and standards. So Ahmadis should compete with them in good things and beat them at their best. This is the true spirit of religion. It is said of one Muslim saint that it was some Ismail, Maulana Ismail or some, what was the name? Suleiman.
No, Ismail.
Ismail?
He had to compete with the Sikh.
Sikh, exactly, yes. You know the incident, yes, exactly. How long did he spend there? For how many years? You remember that anecdote?
No, I only heard from Hazrat Muslim.
Yes, he mentioned it in one of his khutbah sermons.
That there was a talk amongst the people that Sikh is a matchless person. And Hazrat Ismail Shaheed, he said, a Sikh non-believer.
That is exactly, Hazrat Ismail Shaheed, that's it. Now I remember, yes. Yes, I know.
And after practicing for some time,
Yes,
he had a competition with him and he surpassed.
Right. Hazrat Maulana Ismail Sahib Shaheed is reported to have heard somewhere during his tours that there was a Sikh here who is an excellent swimmer and nobody can surpass him. He is peerless. So he said, a Sikh peerless and a Muslim can't beat him? I can't tolerate this. It hurts me. So he stayed there, postponed, deferred his journey and stayed there for some years. He learned how to swim, then he practiced and he did not leave that spot until he had beaten that Sikh hollow in his own department. And then he left. So that is what we call gharat. How do you translate gharat in English? Any idea? Kalo Sahib, you're expert in translation.
Sir, that is one word that beats me. I asked Imam Rafiq and he said the nearest that we can get to is jealousy.
No. How, Nasir, how would you translate this? Imam Sahib, any idea?
I would have to think about it, sir.
I see. Well, I think hurt pride, that is the nearest thing, pride. Gharat, a hurt or injured pride. Huh? Yes, please. Pardon? Achha, I thought you wanted to offer some word. Yes. Gharat is hurt pride. And in some cases, not always, but it has a connotation. Gharat, pride comes some other words would explain the meaning. In different contexts, different word would be required. But I don't find one single word for gharat. Huh? No, no, ego is different altogether. Pride, not pride in the sense that you have attachment for a cause, and that pride for that cause, if that is hurt, and you are sensitive to that, that is called gharat. You don't want that pride to be hurt. No, vanity is absolutely a vain word. Don't mention it. It doesn't come near to. There is another Urdu translation of the word. You see? Anyway, so that should be the moving spirit here. You vie with others for the sake of Islam, having feeling a pride in Islam which must not be hurt or injured in any way. Guard it jealously like a mother. That is called gharat. And to walk 26 miles is just a small thing, just an ordinary thing here in the Western countries. And to consider we have done a very great thing, or in Urdu we say bada tir mara, this is just a childish thing. It should be taken as just a small start towards a great goal. All right. Khaja Sahib and Rashid Sahib, decide between yourselves who is going to ask first question. Fun? Have you decided?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. He just allowed me to ask the first question. Hazur, I've got accumulated several, but I will ask one or two, one by one.
Yes. Very interesting, yes.
उदू जब बढ़ गया शोरो फुगा में, निहा हम हो गए यारे निहा में, हुआ मुझ पर वो जाहिर मेरा हादी, व सुबहान अल्लाह जी आज़ल आदि. Would Hazur kindly explain what is the meaning of the verse निहा हम हो गए यारे निहा में?
That I have already done in one of my sermons in Rabwa. Thank you. So next question, Rashid Sahib, please. Ask one after the other, you know.
Hazur, I have two small questions on the Holy Quran and then some others if you allow me later on.
Ask one question first, please.
Yes, sir. In Surat Mulk, sir, Allah Ta'ala has said, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّ السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. Could you kindly explain the meaning?
When I visited here in 1982, in one of my early sermons, I spoke on this verse and also relative verses.
So the word which worries me, which I don't understand, is وَجَعَلْنَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ. What does that mean?
I have explained that. I have already explained it, please. Yes. No, just a minute. No. This floor is not entirely appropriated by you, this some others as well. Nasir Sahib, you have lost your chance now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
I haven't got a question, but could I say something else about your sermon today?
About what?
About your sermon which you have delivered today. Sermon, khutbah.
You can write to me about it?
No, yes, all right. Could I say something else then?
Please, yes. Go
I
ahead.
heard the same story about the promised Messiah. The promised Messiah once was in Sialkot, and there was another Sikh who used to run very fast.
Yes, quite right.
And the promised Messiah ran with him, and the promised Messiah.
Yes, I also wanted to mention that incident, but in search for the word for gharat in English, I forgot this. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for reminding us.
And this
Yes.
one request I want you to make, that I will write in a
Okay.
letter. Thank
Right.
you.
Now, Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Huzur. So my question is actually a continuation of the previous question, which was previous question about spiritual experiences. My question is continuation.
Which previous question?
In the last session I asked you.
I see. No, we don't remember that.
I'm going to mention.
Yes, please.
The Christians who are, I think they are pious because they don't know what Islam is, the true reality.
Right.
And they are believing it, and they may or may not be experienced by spiritually treated by God, as they said that Jesus came to them and they had conversation, this and that. What I believed is that it is because they don't know Islam, and that might happen. And now if, for instance, that person is conveyed by the true reality, true message of Islam, should that experience or treatment of God stop, or
which treatment of God?
for instance, as they say,
If they believe in Jesus Christ to be the Son of God and they see Him in being, how can you attribute this word to a sonless, childless God? He has no child, and they attribute Godhood to an imaginary figure, that is Jesus Christ. The one who is supposed to be Son of God, he is just an imaginary figure. No Son of God ever existed. So they believe in an imaginary thing, and how can you believe that Allah Himself saw to it that that imaginary person appears to him on his behalf? So this vision has no relationship with God. It is a different phenomena altogether, and that phenomena is the phenomena of illusions. There is an illusory world which man sometimes sees from time to time, and it is very similar to kushuf. Hazrat Masih Maud has written a book, Haqiqatul Wahi, and also in other books he has mentioned this subject, spoken on this subject, written on this subject, and he distinguishes very clearly between the ordinary human phenomena of seeing visions and imagining things, and the phenomena which is revealed by God. Now please sit down, I'll explain something else as well now. The most important thing for an Ahmadi to understand is this, that let's suppose if Allah wanted to speak to human beings and established some type of contact with human beings, being a perfect God, being a perfect being, so orderly in His creation, it is impossible for us to conceive that He would not create some machinery in the mind of man to be responsive to Allah's approach to him. He must provide man with some machinery which would enable him to come into contact with God. So that machinery is already there in our minds and in our hearts. That is the machinery which gets activated normally and begins to see visions and dreams. But those ordinary dreams are distinctly different from the dreams shown by God when this machinery is completely taken over by Allah's forces. So machinery had to be there. This is why you see visions and dreams apart from the religious phenomena. So, but that is like a radio station in which a radio station sends definite messages, and they cannot be received without a radio set. Now, if one particular government has established a radio station, and some people are having radio sets to receive that particular station, it may happen that occasionally they receive some other calls from some other radio stations as well. for which they were not intended. So this is a phenomenon which is not only accepted by the Holy Quran but is mentioned in so many words, that some people are taken over by Satans and they breathe into them like wahi. So if the machinery was not there, how could Satan take over and breathe into somebody something? So that positively establishes that not only the machinery has been provided to man, but it can be activated without ilham and without a message from God. And again we know the reference in the Holy Quran in Surah Yusuf about azghas wa ahlam. What are azghas wa ahlam? The dreams of one's own psychic phenomena. So all these things should be understood fully before you begin to debate this issue with the non-Muslims. You must accept that there is an ordinary phenomena provided by God which gets activated from time to time, but not necessarily in contact with Allah. When it comes into contact with Allah, then it produces very special things. They have their own stamp. Now you can again refer back to the illustration of a radio station and a radio set. A radio set can receive 101 radio stations, so it doesn't mean that there is such a confusion now that nobody can ever know what BBC is and when BBC speaks. When the BBC comes into action, is begun to be received by a radio set, then BBC tells itself what it is. It has its own clear signs, it has its own style and everything. So how can you imagine that God has no style, no stamp, and he would be confused with Satan and other things? Only those who have had the experience, they can tell what is the voice of God, how it speaks, what signs it carries, what positive proof it has. And Hazrat Masih Maud as a man of experience has written in such detail that he has written such a big book. So instead of asking these questions casually in a short session like this, Ahmadis should first go through these books where Hazrat Masih Maud has dealt with the subject in such detail that he has not left even the finest point compared with every possible situation. So you better start reading the books of Hazrat Masih Maud. Any other question, please? No. All right. One after the other again. Achha, you tell just a moment. आप चाहते हैं? Please go ahead.
Excuse me if any mistake that I cannot speak in English very well.
You can speak in Urdu, please. I'll answer you in English. For the sake of those who don't understand English, Urdu, I'll have to speak in Urdu, English myself, but you can put your question in Urdu. Right?
तो मैं हजूर ये पूछना चाहता था एक आयत के मतलब।
किसके मतलब?
एक आयत है, कुरान मजीद की आयत है कि अल्लाह ताला फरमाता है कि असारे को व सारे का
सारे खत्म यस
जी
यस
फक्त ऐदी हुआ जी ऐदी हुआ जिजाम बिमा कसम। तो मैं ये पूछना चाहता था कि एक चोर है वो लाखों रुपए या लाखों पाउंड का सामान चोरी करता है, एक चोर वो है जो भूखा है, perhaps he was hungry, वो भूखा था, तो उसने कुछ चंद रोटी या खुराक चोरी कर ली या चंद पैसे चोरी कर ली भूखा। तो अगर वैसे ही चोर के तो दोनों चोर हैं, अगर इसके भी हाथ काटे जाएं जिसने चांद अशिया चोरी की हैं, तो दूसरी आयत जो अल्लाह ताला ने बयान फरमाई है कुरान मजीद में, जिजाल सैयदुल मिस्रा, तो
जाओ सैयतिन सैयतुम
मिस्र,
मिस्र, हाँ,
तो किसी गुनाह की जिजा उसी कदर है जितनी उसकी नहीं।
Yes, I understand your question, your point, but on this Hazrat Muslim Maud has already spoken and written in the explanation of this verse. Hazrat Muslim Maud has written that the Holy Quran intentionally leaves the use of verb and prefers the use of noun in this verse. Instead of saying man saraka, faqta or faqta'u aydiyahuma, it says as-sariqu was-sariqatu. The thieves and the male thieves and the female thieves. And the word male thieves and female thieves is not applicable to a person who has just stolen occasionally or just by chance or under compulsion. A thief is a regular thief. And somebody, many children, who is a professional thief. A thief, जब आप कहते हैं somebody is a thief, then everybody understands who a thief is. If somebody, some child or somebody has stolen something here and there, he is not called a thief. A thief is one who is accustomed to stealing, whose profession it has become. It has become a second nature to him. So such a person should be treated according to the injunction of this verse. Otherwise, ordinarily, such things do happen in the society. Small children in the houses and even the grown-ups, occasionally the servants, male and female servants, they steal small things. For instance, in Pakistan, the incidence of such theft, peltry theft, is so high now that, for instance, in district Jhang, I doubt if you can find a single Muzaria who does not steal a few mounds of grain here and there or some other things belonging to the landlord. So what would happen if the hands of the entire country are cut off? So nobody would be there as a breadwinner for anybody. So the fact is that as-sariqu was-sariqatu mean only the accustomed thieves, the professionals you may call it, who are categorized as thieves. And for them this is the punishment. Now another thing, if somebody insists that sariqu was sariqatu should be taken in the widest meaning, and any person who has even once stolen even a peltry thing should also be treated as explained in the verse, then if you take the wider meaning of this word, you should also take the wider meaning of faqta'u aydiyahuma. So it would tell you, and the meaning would be different there. The wider meaning of faqta'u aydiyahuma would mean that stop them, prevent them from doing such things. Qatl yad does not only mean cutting of hands, because in Surah Yusuf you come across the same idiom where qattana aydiyahunna, did they cut off their hands? They showed their helplessness. That is one meaning. Or another meaning is that of great surprise. So qat'a yad does not always mean physical severing of the hand. It has other idiomatic meanings. So if you must take the word sariqa in the widest application, so the connected words should also be widened in their meaning, and then no problem would be left for you at all. I hope you understood this. Did you? बाकी किसी समझ लेना है, आपके हमारे डॉक्टर मुजीब बता देंगे आपको, हैं? Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Huzur. In Islamic society, when Islamic law is enforced, the non-Muslim, in what way they should be treated according to their book or according to your Sharia book?
That this is a question which could be answered partly in one direction and partly in another. There are certain injunctions of the Holy Quran which are specific for Muslims, and in any Muslim government they cannot be extended to non-Muslims. There are many spheres of a Muslim's activities which are special to those who believe in Islam, and all the injunctions of the Holy Quran pertaining to such activities would be limited only to the Muslims. But there are certain injunctions pertaining to the law and order of a country. Such injunctions relate to human relationship regardless of the religion. Such injunctions of wider application would be extended to the non-Muslims as well. But there again a difference can be made in certain regions. For instance, Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to punish the Jews in some crimes according to their book. And sometimes they were asked when they appeared before Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how would they like him to decide? Did they want to be treated according to the teachings of Torah or according to Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam's best judgment as he thought best? So if they offered themselves that we should be treated according to Torah, then Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam decided according to the Torah. So that shows that an option can still be given to them. If the old teaching or their own teaching is harder and harsher in treatment, it is not necessarily to be imposed upon them. They should be given a choice to opt for a better teaching, a more lenient and more flexible teaching like Islam. So, judging according to the Sunnah of Hazrat Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam, different answers can be given to the question in different situations. No one single rule can be laid out. Now, do you have time for other questions? Yes, I think we have. Now, is it your turn, Rashid Sahib? Huh? No, it's his turn now, I think. Yes, yes.
This is observed that boys and girls study together at the same schools up to primary standard level. Afterwards, in secondary standard level, they have boys and girls or mixed school for co-education. Would Hazur guide us whether the separate schools should be started from the beginning for boys and girls, or they can study together up to a certain age according to the teachings of Islam?
Can you really run schools here in this country? You don't face such a problem here at all because you can't do anything. Why to ask a question about a question with which you are not concerned? To run a school, to constitute a school is a very expensive affair. In this country it's not easy to run a school without government support. So willy-nilly you have to accept this system and try to be as cautious as possible in safeguarding your values. Please.
Hazur, my question is about sadaqah. In the Holy Quran, Allah Ta'ala has said in Surah Baqarah, Allazina yunfikuna amwalahum bil-layli wan-nahari sirran wa alaniyatan. On the other hand, sir, in Bible, the teaching is, when you give sadaqah, right hand should not know what left hand is doing. Obviously, there is a bit of contradiction.
Contradiction in what?
In sirran wa alaniyatan, in the Holy Quran.
No, there is no contradiction. I don't see any contradiction. What is the contradiction? Tell me.
Sirran wa alaniyatan, I mean, you should let other people know as well and do it without telling people. There are two different commandments.
Two different things at two different times. Lail and Nahar are two different times. Sirran wa alaniya are two different things.
Another small question on the Bible and the Holy Quran, sir. According to the Bible,
Yes.
Hazrat Ishaq was sacrificed. And
What?
was sacrificed.
Yes, yes.
And according to the Holy Quran, Hazrat Ismail. Why
It's not a small question. It requires a very big answer, and that I have already done. In one of my Eid sermons, I suppose, or somewhere else. So, now it's your turn. I think at such speed I will be able to dispose of many questions.
Jazakallah, Hazur.
Yes.
We'll have to think more.
Yes. Please.
The opponents of the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam accuse us that when we recite the sacred kalima and say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah, we really mean Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam instead of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Would Hazur kindly advise us whether any of the opponents ever quoted any reference from the books of the promised Messiah or any writings of the ulama of the movement as an evidence in support of their claim?
Okay, is there any? Fantastic. This question is absolutely fantastic. How could you ask such a question? You know that there can't be any reference whatsoever to this effect. Do you suspect that there could be some writing to this effect?
My thing is that if we have a case against anybody and we don't produce any evidence,
Yes.
the case is dismissed. So it means
So it is
that their
dismissed?
ulama's case is dismissed.
So it's dismissed already.
But they don't accept it yet. The
That's
case
up to
has
them.
been dismissed.
All right. Please, thank you so much for your turn.
Hazur, one of the minister in Pakistan government has made a statement, कुरान और सुन्नत पर तहकीक का मुस्तकिल इदारा कायम किया जाए और जदीद दौर के तकाजे पूरे होते नजर आएं. And then he said, कुरान मजीद की गलत सेहतमंद मुआशरे में सही इज्तिहाद कुरान मजीद की गलत तावीलों से तहफ़्फ़ुज़ का ज़रिया है. Could you kindly comment on this, please? Before I ask another question on this.
He's quite right about it.
Well, sir, is there any need for that when we have Hazrat Masih Maud already and we have all the tafsirs of the Holy Quran done by Hazrat Muslim Maud?
Does he believe in those things?
No, I was thinking of
That
writing to
minister?
him.
Beg pardon?
I was thinking of writing to him and telling him this job is done already.
The person who has spoken on this subject does not believe in Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. Yet what he has said is right. There is such need. So why should you contradict him or try to take up the issue with him? It's not proper. If somebody, even if he is an enemy, has spoken the truth, you should agree with him. Yes, please, your question, your turn.
As Hazur had mentioned in several occasions that the ulama had issued fatwas declaring kafir, non-believers, those of the Muslims who did not agree with their views on certain teachings of Islam. Would Hazur kindly guide us whether there were some among the Muslim leaders who raised their voice against these ulama for issuing such fatwas and dividing the Ummah-e-Muslimah, the followers of Islam, in different groups?
Yes, from time to time there have been many voices raised, but to no effect, because those voices were also stilled by the louder voices of the ulama declaring themselves kafirs. Allama Iqbal himself raised voice against it, but Deen Mullah fi Sabilillah Fasad, this is his verse, but he himself was declared a kafir. Sir Sayyid Ahmed raised voice, many other intelligentsia of the Muslim society at various times tried to do it, but their voices were stilled, as I have said, by the louder and coarser voices of the mullah declaring themselves to be them to be kafirs themselves. So this has been going on and on. Your turn, please.
So this is
I have noticed one difference now in you. In the first part of your, when you asked questions, say in the first half hour, you used to scratch right side of your head. Now in the second half hour, you have started scratching the left side. Have you stored your questions on the right side and left side? One side is exhausted and other is not yet? You do what he did. For the first time he did this. Now after he's exhausted that side, now he starts scratching it.
Thank you. What does history show? What happened at the death of Prophet Hazrat Musa? Was the Khilafat prolonged for 30 years or 1400 years, please? Could you explain?
Until Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, his Khilafat continued till the time of Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. Your turn now. Do what I want you to do tonight, to exhaust you, at least once.
Time is about to finish, otherwise I can continue.
Yes, please, go ahead.
As most of the known prophets belong to the Middle East, and the climate of that area is normally warm, would Hazur kindly advise us?
Now please repeat the first part of the sentence.
As most of the known prophets belonged to the Middle East and the climate of that area is normally warm, would Hazur kindly advise us if spirituality has any connection with heat?
I know puberty has some connection with this. Coming of age, puberty has certain connection with the warm climates, that I know. And also the warmth has spiritual connection as well, there is no doubt. But it does not mean that the prophets have always been sent and only been sent to the warm climates. The known prophets, as you said, perhaps by that you mean the prophets as mentioned in the Holy Quran.
Yes, sir.
But the Holy Quran mentions that there are so many prophets we sent, and in every region we sent prophets, and in every people we sent prophet, in every age we sent prophets. So according to those verses which generally speak of prophets without naming them, it is very clear that thousands of prophets must have come in other places, in other ages. So these prophets, some of them are known to their people, and some of them may have been forgotten by them themselves. And also some of them have been distorted in their concept, in their conception, and they have been raised to the status of godhood. So don't say that these were the only prophets or the majority of the prophets who appeared in the Middle East. When Allah speaks of all regions, in all ages, of all the people, Allah speaks of the entire world, in which most of the regions are colder and few regions are warmer, because on the side of poles, it's cooler, and in the Mediterranean it is warmer. So all the Mediterranean does not, Mediterranean, what's it called, this central equatorial regions I meant. In the equatorial regions, the climate is warmer and the closer to it. But the equator, fortunately for us, mostly passes over the sea, where there is no population. So if you compare the population of the people living around the equator with those living away from the equator, you would come to realize that most of the people live away from the equator. And they belong to the cooler climates. The population of China, Russia, America, Europe, and the southern hemisphere, the countries of the southern hemisphere, is larger, and of those parts of Asia which belong to the cooler climates is definitely larger than the warmer climates. So from that we can infer that prophets must have come in those regions, and because the population here is greater than the warmer regions, then the number of prophets may have been more and greater. I mean, they are just conjectures, but possibilities, of course. So that conclusion is not correct, that because the prophets who are known to have appeared in the Middle East are greater in number to you, in your knowledge, to the prophets whom you do not know. So the warmer climate must have to do something with prophethood. This is not correct. Prophethood is not a phenomena which has any relationship whatsoever with the warmth of a place or coldness of a place as such. But spirituality as such has some connection with the warm climate. And Hazrat Masih Maud has written on this. Hazrat Masih Maud in his commentary on Ramadan and the philosophy of fasting has written extensively on this connection between warmth, heat, and the spiritual excitement. They have some relationship, of course. Energy, of course, because there is energy around, so within you are also activated. But this is, not the proper way of expressing what the Mishnah of Islam has said. You better read it. It's a very intricate writing and very rich in philosophy, and a very deep analytical study of the human situations in various climates. So you better study those portions in the words of Hazrat Masih Maud himself. Then you will find a connection between a spiritual state or religious state of a person living in warm climates. But again, I must make a distinction, and remember this. This does not mean that Allah is dependent on a warm climate to send a prophet. The phenomena of prophethood does not depend upon the climate. In every climate, as necessity arises, and that necessity equally arises in warm climates as well as in cold climates. So because that phenomena is connected with necessity, so it has no relationship with climates. I had to speak at length on this because I'm thankful to you pointed it out. Some people reading Hazrat Masih Maud writings on this relationship of spiritual excitement with the warmth, with the hot climate, confuse these issues and misconstrue him. So it had to be clarified that the phenomena of prophethood is a different phenomena. It has no dependency on the climate of any country whatsoever. Rashid sir, shall we?
After you, sir. Leave it tomorrow.
All right, one question please. Yes.
Hazur, what does this mean? In Surat Kaf, Allah Ta'ala has said, Majma al-Bahrain hai. Could you kindly explain?
Majma al-Bahrain means a place where two oceans meet.
Yeah, but there's a deep meaning to that.
What? What is the meaning?
The deep meaning which are given...
if the oceans are deep, the meanings will be deeper.
No, sir, I've read the commentary. Hazrat Musa ka daur khatam hua aur Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa.
So why are you behaving as if you don't know?
No, I wanted some explanation, you see. That's...
Read in that commentary where you read this. The explanations are already there. Assalamu alaikum.